18 years in a wheelchair. One soldier said the impossible, "Sir, you are not finished." The training grounds of Fort Ironvale were never quiet. Boots hitting dirt, rifles clattering, sergeants barking cadence. But that afternoon, a stillness cut through the air. At the center of the field, a young private knelt in the grass, her hands locked on the steel straps of a knee brace. Her name was Aria Kane, fresh to the base, her fatigues still stiff with newness. Tell us where you're watching from, we salute you, and subscribe for more untold military stories. Before her sat General Marcus Donovan, silver hair sharp against the dark navy of his dress uniform, a man carved by discipline and war. For 18 years, the chair beneath him had been both his throne and his prison. Soldiers whispered at the edges, watching. Nobody interfered. Everyone knew his story. 18 years ago, an IED tore through his convoy in the Red Wind Desert. The blast left him broken, spine shattered, doctors certain he would never rise again. Permanent, they said. Pain management, medication, logistics, yes. Walking, never. Donovan had accepted it. He had led from the chair, commanded battalions, earned medals, a legend who never stood. But Private Kane didn't see a legend. She saw a man. She adjusted the side strap with quiet precision. "I reviewed your scans," she said, her voice calm. "Steady." Donovan's eyes narrowed. "You had no clearance to do that. I was assigned to the rehab archive." "Sir, your file was impossible to ignore." The murmur that followed rippled through the field like static. Who was this private mid-20s, slim build, dark hair pulled back tight, daring to confront a general in front of his own men? Her boots were barely scuffed. Her uniform held no stripes, no decoration. Yet her eyes didn't waver. "You think I haven't been examined by the best?" Donovan's voice was flat, sharp as a blade. "Sir," she said evenly, "sometimes the best stop trying when the outcome looks final." His jaw tightened. "I haven't." The burn in his chest wasn't anger. It was something he hadn't felt in years. "You're out of line." "Soldier," but her hands never left the brace, with respect. "Sir, your gluteal and quad groups still show residual activity. Minimal, yes, but measurable. Your lower motor neurons still fire. That means there's a pathway. Weak, but alive, for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Donovan blinked at the word he thought was buried, forever alive. Most doctors had stopped talking about possibilities long ago. They managed decline, never hope. But this private kept pressing. "You've built a life around the chair. You've led, commanded, inspired. But," she tightened the final strap, "you haven't finished what your body is still waiting to do." The field was silent. Donovan's hands gripped his thighs. His eyes flared, not with anger, but with a question he swore he would never ask again. 18 years in silence, until a private dared him to fight hope again. A silence held the field. Cadets pushed through push-ups in the background. Instructors barked drills. But here every breath hung in suspension. General Marcus Donovan's jaw worked, his hands gripping his thighs until his knuckles whitened. "You think I haven't tried to stand?" His voice carried the weight of 2 decades of failure. Aria Kane didn't flinch. "I think you haven't tried again, not since the last time someone told you to stop hoping." The words pierced deeper than he wanted to admit. He locked eyes with her. "You presume a lot for a private." She rose, not with arrogance, but with quiet conviction. "Before enlisting, I was a neuro-rehab tech. My unit specialized in retraining damaged systems. I've seen limbs wake up after years of silence. I've seen spines respond when every scan said no." Donovan scoffed, though it came out more weary than dismissive. "And you think my spine will obey you?" Her reply was calm, almost disarming, sir. I think your mind already has. Your body is waiting for permission. It wasn't bravado. It wasn't arrogance. It was truth, and it hit harder than any battlefield speech he'd heard since the blast. He wanted to wave her off, bury her words under the iron shield of command. But something in her steadiness rooted him. She hadn't called for attention. She hadn't tried to shine. She had simply stepped in, precise and unshaken, and touched a part of him he had buried 18 years ago, the part that remembered wanting to walk not for pride, not for rank, but for himself. She looked down at the brace, adjusting it with care. We start with static stand therapy. Parallel bars, 60 seconds a day. Just pressure bearing. Then we see. He turned away, the fire in his chest colliding with a fear older than pain. You don't know what it feels like to fall in front of soldiers who once saluted you. Her voice dropped. Steady but raw. No, sir. Not physically. But I know what it feels like to be dismissed, to be told not to bother. I've been looked through my whole life. That made him face her again. She nodded toward the gym beyond the field. Give me 45 days. That's the neurocycle window, 6 weeks. Long enough to prove there's life. Short enough that failure won't waste your men's time. If I fail, you'll never hear from me again. Every instinct screamed at him to protect the only thing left, his pride. But something inside shifted. He didn't say yes. He didn't say no, instead. With the field frozen in silence. General Marcus Donovan gave the smallest nod. Aria Kane picked up her bag. Eyes forward, walking toward the gym as if the battle had already begun. And for the first time in 18 years, Donovan felt the weight of possibility pressing harder than the weight of his chair. The next morning, just past 0600, the base gym at Fort Ironvale stirred for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Dust clung to the equipment like memory, abandoned since the blast that had locked General Marcus Donovan to a chair. Soldiers jogged past the open doors, glancing inside with indifference. No one expected to see him there. No one except Private Aria Kane. She was already waiting. Sleeves rolled up, bars scrubbed clean, braces warmed, when he wheeled in. She didn't salute. He had told her not to. "Braces are ready, sir," she said, her tone steady. "Professional?" 60 seconds, she added, nodding toward the padded parallel bars. "That's our only goal today." Donovan gave no answer. He only rolled forward, locking his chair into place. Aria moved beside him, her hands sure, attaching stabilizers to his thighs and calves with surgical precision. "Tell me if anything feels wrong," she said. "It already does." He muttered. "Good," she replied softly. "That means we're in the right place," with her arm firm across his back and the braces locking his knees. Donovan's hands gripped the parallel bars, his knuckles whitened, arms trembling. "All right," Aria whispered. "Shift. Bear weight." His breath hitched, pain flashed hot and merciless behind his eyes, but he bit it down. She felt it anyway. "Keep breathing." "Sir, with me." His feet stayed planted, but his knees weak, scarred, forgotten began to hold. 10 seconds. 20. She didn't count aloud or cheer. She only matched his breath, grounding him, a living pillar at his side. Sweat rolled down his temples. His arms quaked with the effort of carrying not just weight, but 18 years of fear. "Now sit, sir," Aria said quietly. He collapsed back into the chair, chest heaving, drenched in sweat not from muscles alone, but from confronting the ghosts buried inside his spine. Aria knelt before him, tugging the straps free. "You did it." "I didn't move," he rasped. "You stood," she corrected, eyes steady, Your body remembered. Day after day, they returned. Some mornings were brutal, some nights, pain stole his sleep, but every dawn, Aria was there waiting, silent, relentless, and as the seconds stretched into minutes, a question no one dared whisper hung over the gym almost before the general took his first step. 60 seconds became steps, and steps became something the army could no longer ignore. The grind was merciless. Some mornings General Marcus Donovan cursed under his breath, teeth clenched against pain that clawed at nerves long thought dead, and Private Aria Kane said nothing. She only handed him a towel, wiped the braces clean, and waited for him to try again. No applause, no speeches, just quiet persistence. What began as 60 seconds became 90, then 2 minutes, by the third week. Donovan's arms no longer shook with every shift forward. His spine held, raw but steady, on the 21st day. Aria did something different. She stepped back just an inch farther than before. Donovan's hands clamped the bars, panic flashing across his face. But his body held. He stabilized without her touch. For a man who had lived 18 years believing his legs belonged only to memory. That moment was a battlefield victory. That night, alone in his quarters, Donovan faced the mirror. His shoulders had grown harder, his jaw leaner. But it wasn't the changes in his body that froze him. It was his eyes. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, there was life in them. Not vanity, not rank, just presence. He stared at himself like a man meeting an old comrade he thought had died in the blast. By the 4th week, they stopped counting seconds. They started counting steps. 2, clumsy and halting, then 4, then 6. Each one felt like defiance carved into the earth of Fort Ironvale. One morning, Aria walked into the gym and froze. The braces were waiting by the bars, straps loosened. Donovan was already standing, gripping the rails. "You're late, Private," he growled. She smirked, shaking her head. "Sir, I've been here all along, just watching." That day, he took 10 steps between the bars, the gym staff, once indifferent, paused mid-workout, a few clapped quietly. Word spread like fire through the barracks the immovable general was moving. By month's end, the same soldiers who once whispered pity gathered again on the field where it all began. They thought it was another pinning ceremony. They thought they knew what was coming. But when Marcus Donovan rolled to the center, locking the wheels of his chair, no one was ready for what he chose to do next. No bars, no cords, just his cane and her hand. The parade field at Fort Ironvale had seen promotions, retirements, graduations, but never this. When General Marcus Donovan rolled to the front, soldiers stood at ease, expecting a speech or a medal pinning. Instead, the general locked his wheels, braced his palms, and rose. No parallel bars, no harness, only a cane in one hand and Private Aria Kane's steady grip in the other. One step, a pause, a salute. Silence fell so heavy, it seemed the earth itself held its breath. Then the ranks erupted. Cheers thundered louder than any graduation, some soldiers shouting, others weeping openly. But Donovan's eyes weren't on the crowd. They were fixed on Aria. He pressed the cane into her hand and let it go. Standing tall, shaky, unsteady, but proud, he whispered, voice breaking. "You didn't just help me stand. You reminded me who I was before the chair." Her reply was quiet but sure. He was always still there. "Sir, he just needed permission." The general's hand moved inside his jacket. When it came out, a small commendation coin gleamed in the afternoon sun. "Few ever see this," he said. "It's given to those who restore something broken." He placed it firmly in her palm, his voice trembling. Not my body, but my will. Aria swallowed hard, her chin lifting even as her eyes burned. I didn't come to fix you. General, I came to remind you weren't finished. They stood there, commander and private. 2 uniforms from opposite ends of the chain of command, not bound by rank, but by belief, behind them. 1,000 soldiers stood taller, prouder, because they had witnessed the impossible, not just a man walking again, but a man choosing to. The image carved itself into Fort Ironvale's history, a leader reborn, a soldier unshaken, and an army reminded that sometimes the greatest victories are not won with rifles or tanks, but with will, patience, and the refusal to surrender. And as cheers rolled across the field, one thought echoed in every mind. If the immovable general could rise again, what else, in their own lives, was still possible?